You are listening to the Disney Dream Girls, an unofficial Disney Theme Parks podcast. And this is show number, ready for this, it's a biggie, 455 for Sunday, the 21st of May, 2023.
Where dreams begin.
Hello and welcome to this week's Disney Dream Girls. My name is Michelle Young, and together with my jolly good chum Jane Phipps, we are your guides to the place where dreams begin. Hello there, Janie.
Hello there, Michelle. 455 shows, really?
Absolutely.
Wow. We do chatter on a bit, don't we?
I know. Well, I was having a little old look at our hosting website on, sort of trying to gauge how many people actually take time out of their incredibly busy life. And I've got some amazing stats that really blew me away.
Go on then.
Nearly 20,000 people have listened to our little podcast this year.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
So where are we? We're May.
Yeah.
That is, it's just mind-blowing. It really, really is. That number of people, 5,000 a month roughly, 5,000 a month, are listening to us talk Disney.
I know, and we just kind of show up, don't we? We have a little bit of a natter and then we go away again.
Yeah. So it's really humbling when you sort of think all the time that we've been going, we're heading up to that, that big number of 1 million downloads at some point in the future. And you sort of think, wow, through doing this little old podcast, not only have we met the most amazing people, but we have experienced Disney with them. They have shared their experience of Disney with us. We've learnt things, other people have learnt things, and we've just had our life blessed and changed and moulded so much by doing this podcast for the last 10 years.
I know, that's kind of a scary thought, because would it be not for this podcast, you and I would never have met. We
wouldn't have met. Caroline, who I love to pieces, she and I would never have met because we met at Mouse Meets. Oh gosh, quite a number of years ago. I'm beginning to think it was round about 2011-ish. And I got to talking to her, and then we met up and we talked and we messaged. And the same with yourself, as everyone who listens to us know how we met.
Yeah.
But then international friends that we've had the ability to meet up with. This, our Tracy over in Welsh Wales and Deborah in Canada and Stephen in Canada. We've got Casey in Germany, Catherine over in California, Kat and Lewis over in Australia, Sarah in Australia. Literally, we have got a smorgasbord of countries downloading our little old show, and I feel quite, I've had an awful week, I will be honest. But when I sit and think about all of that, it makes me feel quite sort of warm and fuzzy inside that we are sharing our love and other people are sharing their love of something put together by a man that we never met.
Yeah, it's very humbling.
Absolutely is. I've gone down a complete tangent city there.
That's all right. It's what we do, isn't it? You never know what you're going to discover on this show.
It happens, my darling. So last weekend I had my birthday. Thank you very much for the very nice messages. I really loved that on Facebook. I didn't get too many Disney things. I did okay this year, though. I got a very cute Dooney and Burke Snow White wallet, I think Americans refer to them. We in the UK call them purses, which Caroline contributed to with a gift voucher for me.
Very nice.
And your good self, I was wearing my Drink Me ears today, my earrings that you got me. And my lovely children got me a Beauty and the Beast, Jim Shaw.
Can't beat a bit Jim Shaw.
Can't at all. And now we're planning ahead that we're going to be together in the same room next weekend.
We are. 7 days from when we're recording, we shall be getting a bit jolly, won't we? And having a lovely burlesque night out.
Absolutely. It's time to fling on some glitter.
Yeah, a bit of glitter, a bit of glam, and relax and enjoy.
Now we have a Disney podcast for you guys.
I keep forgetting about that bit.
Jane, I gather you've got some history for us.
I have got some history. Nothing from the 21st of May, just to be awkward. I've got something from the 20th and the 22nd, but that'll do, won't it? So, cast your mind back to 1973, because we were alive on this planet at that point.
I was 2.
I was a little bit older. Gloss over that one. So, 1973, there were 4 attractions that opened in the Magic Kingdom. There was the Tom Sawyer Island, the Tom Sawyer Rafts, the Plaza Swan Boats, and the Richard F. Irvine, which was the second Liberty Square riverboat.
Ooh.
So I'm just thinking, it's funny, isn't it? Out of those, the Plaza Swan Boats didn't survive. They closed in 1983. And the Richard F. Irvine was renamed, and that's now known as the Liberty Belle riverboat.
Interesting fact.
So some little things that open, because you forget, don't you, that although obviously Magic Kingdom opened in 1971, you kind of have to recognise that it's an ever-evolving park, and things that we take for granted as having been there forever and a day actually kind of rolled out quite smoothly over a period of time. So I thought that was really interesting. Going forwards to 1996, still staying in Disney World, the Fantasia Gardens miniature golf opened, and I love myself a little bit of miniature golf, and I love this little miniature golf course, and every time we've played it, it has absolutely slung it down with rain.
Oh, bless.
And that's all I ever remember about that. I just remember standing there thinking, there's a thunderstorm happening, and we're playing miniature golf with metal rods in our hands. And I think the second time that we played it, we actually were told to come off the course, and we had to wait for the rain to clear before they would allow us to go back on again. And I think that was the same day that you and I then met up and we went and did the kitchen sink challenge. Do you remember that day? It was rather wet, wasn't it?
It was.
I'm then going to move forward to the 22nd of May. This is to mark the passing in 2005 of Disney legend Thurl Ravenscroft. Got a plethora of information about this name. People should probably recognise his name. He was best known for Tony the Tiger, Kellogg's Tony the Tiger.
Yeah.
But Disney credits include 101 Dalmatians, Alice in Wonderland, The Aristocats and Cinderella. But he's also in the theme parks because he's in Pirates of the Caribbean, The Haunted Mansion and the Country Bear Jamboree. So one of these characters that you probably don't maybe necessarily realise that you know, but you'll know the voice. He was also the deep voice that you hear in the Christmas classic You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, which I love the Grinch. I know it's not Disney, but I do love the Grinch. So that's just another little bit of a side fact. But yeah, lots of involvement with Disney. Railroad announcer, singing voice can be heard on the Disneyland sailing ship Columbia, in the Enchanted Tiki Room, Pirates of the Caribbean, singing Yo Ho Yo Ho, and of course in the Haunted Mansion he was responsible for a voice in the Grim Grinning Ghost. There you go.
Super duper. Well, I actually have one, Jane, for this actual podcast release date.
Oh, go on then.
And it is a little bit of a cash cow for the Disney company. 1928, Walt Disney's trademark application for Mickey Mouse is filed with the US Patent Office.
There's a good one to have, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Might have bought them in a fair bob or two.
Well, I imagine so, yeah. Jane.
Yes.
Shall we discuss the elephant in the room? And I am not talking about my weight gain since my holiday. Let's talk about what has happened on this day or on this week in the Disney theme parks.
Yeah, would you be talking about that old Star Cruiser malarkey?
Yeah.
It's closing.
I was so stunned. It was like, oh, I never would have thought it. She says, sarcasm rich in her voice.
Yeah, I think it's one of these ones, isn't it, that having watched it evolve and then see the cruise dates being stripped back and seeing lots of open dates and it never really getting sold out and recognising what an expensive endeavour it was always going to be, I don't think it's that much of a surprise to hear that 28th, 30th of September will be its last cruise.
Sad. But let's just think of it this way. When Disney launched this, people knocked it prior to it. And once they knew the price, it put people off. But let's just think about it. There are people who have been on this more than once. And there is a reason why. appealed to a certain subset of a subset of a subset with people with very big wallets.
Yeah, and I think this perhaps is where the problem lies with it. I think the ambition of what they wanted to do with this hotel is to be applauded. I think the cast members, as we know, are probably the key element to this hotel. I was only watching some video a few days ago and watching the cast members who are all equity performers, and yeah, absolutely, totally 100% in character. And to be in character for hours on end and to be able to interact with all those guests and remember who you've interacted with and all that goes with it, absolutely astounding. But as you say, Michelle, you've got to want to go into that sort of atmosphere, and you've got to be a Star Wars fan, and you've got to be a Star Wars fan that likes the sequel trilogy. There's quite a lot of things there before you even get to the expense of it that for a good portion of people wasn't going to work.
Yeah, it's, as you say, your big argument, apart from the price, let's just park that and put it away. For you, it wasn't the right theme of the Star Wars for you and a lot of other people like you.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to try and be very diplomatic. So the sequel trilogy will have its fans, but I think for the vast majority of Star Wars fans who have kept the Star Wars franchise alive for a lot of years, the sequel trilogy did not go down well at all. Consequently, to set not only the Star Cruiser Hotel and Galaxy's Edge in that universe did not go down well with Star Wars fans. And I appreciate the argument could be they're trying to appeal to a newer audience. The problem is, it's us oldies that like the original and then potentially like the prequels, because the prequels didn't always go down that well with people. We're the mums and the dads, and perhaps older, that have got the cash, that are introducing our children to the Star Wars franchise. And we're the ones that hold the purse strings as far as going to the parks and as far as going to the hotels are concerned. And I think a lot of Star Wars fans have felt aggrieved at the route that Disney have taken with Star Wars. And we kind of want our old stuff back. I think, therefore, having set the hotel in that particular era, you already alienated quite a lot of your hardcore fans. Hardcore Star Wars fans will spend money.
Well, you've proven that with the number of people you met flying from all over the world to come to London for Celebration.
Exactly, and it works. I've already got a little. We have a little Facebook group chat going at the moment, and we've called it, too expensive for Japan, because we started the group off looking at whether or not to go to Japan and all that sort of thing. But people will go to the next Celebration in Japan. I know that when we go out doing our cosplay, people look for certain characters. They're always going to look for a stormtrooper. They'll look for Darth Vader. They want to see a Han and a Leia and a Luke. That's who people, regardless of whether you're fans or not, they're the characters that people will automatically talk about. When we were trooping a few weeks back in Nottingham, and we had a local TV company following us round, and I heard the interviewer talk to an older lady who was sat in a wheelchair, and she said, "Who's your favourite character from Star Wars?" And she went, "Oh, Harrison Ford." Now, obviously, she didn't use his character name. And it's like, well, why Harrison? Well, it's Harrison. Why wouldn't it be? I know that's silly, but that was an older lady, older than myself, who recognised that we were Star Wars and who could name something to do with Star Wars. And I think Disney have forgotten that if it was not for those 3 original films that George Lucas set up, they wouldn't have this amazing franchise to play with. And I think in the regards to the hotel, and you can argue a little bit as well to do with Galaxy's Edge, because I think by pushing it into this new canon, as they would refer to it, this new era, it has alienated Star Wars fans. But I just think if you'd have put original characters in this hotel and themed it different, it looked too clean. There was just something about aspects of, not all aspects, but for a lot of us hardcore Star Wars fans, there were certain aspects from what we've seen online just didn't look right for a Star Wars themed hotel. But likewise, I do know that there's some people, I should say, Michelle, that have gone on repeat voyages and love every minute of it, and all power to them. But I think it's just demonstrated that it is such a small, narrow field of people that you're appealing to, that it's probably ended up being its downfall, because you're not accessing this whole massive group of people that have money to spend on Star Wars and will gladly spend it on Star Wars if it's the right Star Wars.
We know our lovely friend Casey is going on the Galactic Star Cruiser very shortly, so we'll be able to hear from her about her experience. I do appreciate what you've said with regards to the right bit of Star Wars, etc. And I know for me, it's something I would not, even if they did it, as they say, if they made this into an interactive activity on a film franchise that I would love, say for Snow White, okay?
Yeah.
You know, I've got to go and help the dwarves and all of this lot.
Yeah.
For me, I wouldn't want to do it anyway, as no matter how big a Snow White fan I am, because that price tag was beyond my pocket. But also, I'm a very staid little English girl, and I don't like escape rooms. I don't like making an idiot of myself in that sense of acting out things in a role. I don't mind wearing, dressing as Snow White, wearing the ears and all of that, but that's where I sort of my comfortable spot finishes.
Yeah, well, I think you're going into another level, aren't you? By going into this immersive element, you've got to I think the only way you're going to get the best out of it is you've got to throw yourself in 110%. I cosplay, and I wouldn't want to do it. It's not something, I don't want my day sort of doing daft little things and having to follow a certain path or whatever. Like you, I'm happy to Disney bound and I'm happy to dress up, but I'm not sure how this is supposed to run is completely my thing.
We shall just have a little moment or two to ponder. It's a big building.
With no windows.
With no windows, with no spa, with no pool. What are they going to do with it?
No car park.
Yeah, true. Where can you park? Because Tom was talking to me about it and he says, oh, well, why don't they just turn it into a hotel? But what kind of hotel are you going to come across that doesn't want to use a pool, doesn't want to use a gym, and really, apart from the accommodation and the eating, there's really not a great deal to do apart from offering the immersive experience, which we know doesn't work because of the financial model. So Tom said, well, why don't they just build all of this next to it? Well, I don't know what land availability is like that. And
yeah, because it's in a particular peculiar place. I saw somebody had talked about, oh, well, could you make it into a hotel that would lead you straight into the park? But actually, when you get an aerial view and you look where it is, it's not that close or not close enough to the park. And the roads around it are all what currently are used for cast members to get in to work. So it's in a peculiar spot from that aspect. You're going to have to change it into a hotel. Surely you would have to expand it and put the car park in and put in the things that you would expect to find in a hotel. Because surely, as goodness, if they were going to do it as a hotel, they'd be wanting to charge deluxe rates.
But how about it's being a dinner experience?
Yeah.
And, there was all that entertainment. There was Gaia singing and things like that. Why not do that? Because I heard nothing but good thing about the food. So maybe it's a dinner. Maybe it is a dinner, an overnight stay, breakfast, leave type of scenario. And if you pare back all the additional costs of all the sort of cast members that they need for the entertainment side, and it's just based around the dinner show, is that something possible? I don't know, and I am sure we will find out what Disney are planning to do with it soon, because they don't tend to make decisions very quickly. They've closed it, they've tried everything under the sun to try and get it to work. It's not feasible, so...
Yeah, and it's interesting. I did hear somebody say today that it's closing at the end of the financial year. So it would mean that in the next financial year, if they were to get rid of it completely, it could be that there's a write-off against losses and things like that. So there could be some reasoning why it's coming to a close at that particular time of the year as well.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. I want to talk food.
Okay then. Any food in particular?
I want to talk about carbohydrate-based food that you can have in Walt Disney World that will leave you with a smile on your face, a grin on your tummy, and not too much of a dent in your wallet, perhaps.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
It very much is. I did a challenge which I introduced to our followers over on Patreon, and we talked on a specially recorded show for them about this challenge, and I am now ready to share it with the world.
Go on then, my dear.
So, I love bread pudding. And when I talk about bread pudding, to me, it brings back memories of childhood, of my particularly Auntie Diane having leftover bread, and it might not have gone mouldy yet, but it definitely wasn't sandwich material.
Yeah.
And she'd get together some eggs and some milk and maybe a bit of cream and some sultanas and make bread and butter pudding.
Yeah.
For us, it always included sultanas. It always did. And then a nice little bit of nutmeg on the top. And
Definitely.
It was delicious. So many amazing memories. And traditionally in the UK, we would probably have it with a good old dollop of custard.
Yeah, I remember my mum used to make an amazing one. And if she was feeling a very luxurious, would have carnation milk.
The decadence, Jane. The decadence. I remember the days when the height of sophistication was a Viennetta after your main meal.
The crunch when you sliced into that.
Oh, ding dang dong. Sold. Anyway, so I made a list of places that sold bread pudding in Walt Disney World, and I kind of thought, well, I'm not going to get round them all because there was a few places that I couldn't get a dining reservation, or it just didn't work in with other plans. But I sort of narrowed it down to, I believe, 6, and I'm going to talk you through some of these where you can get them, and then I will postulate which was my favourite.
Right.
So, first place is available at the dinner menu at Sebastian's Bistro. I have spoken to you before. Wow, wow, wow. Why are you paying a lot of money for a table service meal when you could be at the Caribbean Beach Resort and having a $35 per adult multi-course experience? I just don't get it.
Amazing value.
Now, unfortunately, you cannot get the bread pudding on its own. You have to pay for the meal. But you get the most amazing array of house-baked pull-apart rolls. And there was one like a little pat cheese biscuit, pat sort of cheese twist, but in the shape of Mickey head. And it was divine. And they brought it with guava butter and caramelised onion jam.
Ooh.
Then we had a spice necklace salad, which was beautiful with pumpkin seeds that had been candied and greens and fruits and radish and key lime dressing. And then if that was not enough, they brought a platter that celebrated the food of the Caribbean. You know, it was like a real traditional Caribbean harvest food with rice and beans, vegetable curry, grilled seasonal vegetables, and all those yummy, yummy things that you would get if you were eating in the Caribbean. Absolutely delicious. And there's also a plant-based option if you're not a meatitarian. Now, their dessert is the house-made coconut pineapple bread pudding served with caramel sauce and vanilla ice cream. Literally, I am salivating at the memory. And even when you add on a reasonable tip, this menu is not ridiculous because you could just say to them, could I have a bit more of the steak? And it'd come. Could I have a bit more of the fish? And it'd come. It is one of those places you eat till you are satisfied. And the staff didn't push you out. It just seems to be a neglected little gem. But now with the Skyliner, it's so easy to get to.
Of course, yes.
So I mentioned the house-made coconut pineapple bread pudding.
You did.
Now, the chef at Sebastian's Bistro has his heritage and his past over at Ohana. Because if you've ever been to Ohana, you know that they serve their own bread pudding.
Yeah.
Which is identical
Ah.
But we know that Ohana is a lot more money than $35. So if you want your fill, that's where you're going. But again, you cannot just order the bread pudding. You've got to order all the meal.
Right.
But I have a solution.
Okay.
You could go to the Tambu Lounge.
Right.
4 p.m. till 10 p.m. every day, they serve food.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be seated to be able to order food from the food menu. Otherwise, you're just going to be able to access the drinks menu. And, we had a 15-minute wait of loitering until somebody finished their food and left.
Right.
Now, you can't just get the bread pudding, which is exactly the same bread pudding that you get at Ohana. You can also get some of the delightful foods from Ohana as well. You can get the California roll set, absolutely delicious. You can get the Big Kahuna hot wings, $14. You can get the barbecue pork ribs, $16. Or you could get a very generous serving of the pot stickers for $13.
Okay.
But you get the bread pudding.
Right.
The bread pudding is $12.
Okay.
Now, I have eaten at Ohana plenty of times, and I am sure the serving of the bread pudding is smaller than what I got at the Tambu Lounge. It was huge. It was the size of a house brick, Jane. And it had a beautiful orchid on the side, a little jug of the caramel sauce, and the ice cream. I had a very good go at eating this meal for 4 on my own.
Did you manage it? Go
Absolutely, I did. How much was it?
I don't know.
$12.
Ow.
Add a bit of a tip in,
Yeah.
but that is an absolute bargain. Bargain, Jane, because you can't get that quality of food for $12 anywhere else.
No, true.
You could go get yourself a few alcoholic beverages, some pot stickers, California roll, share a pudding, job done, and it's a lot cheaper than going in Ohana.
Exactly, yeah.
I also had another place I had to try out because the menu sounded sensational.
Go on.
This was Olivia's Cafe over at Old Key West.
Okay.
And on their brunch breakfast menu, they have a banana bread pudding topped with Bahamian banana rum syrup, creme anglaise, coconut whipped cream, and this is where it got weird for me, served with bacon, sausage or ham.
Oh, we kind of spoilt it there.
I know. I did say to the lady, I don't really want bacon, sausage or ham with what technically in my book is a pudding. So she brought me a side serving of fruit.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah. Now that serving came in a normal standard dessert bowl. It was definitely sized for one. It was nowhere near as sizable as the massive serving I got at the Tambu Lounge. $16, then I've got my tip. But it was a very nice bread pudding. It was the moistest bread pudding. It was the darkest in colour because there was a lot of spice in it. And then you have the banana rum syrup and the creme anglaise. It was utterly divine. It really, really was. And if I was going to go on taste only, this probably would be really up there.
Okay.
So I'm going to leave Olivia's.
Right. Where are we going now?
And I'm now going to go to Disney Springs. And I'm going in Raglan Road.
Ah.
The server came to seat us and he said, right, have you decided? I said, yes, because I want one thing and you can bring it at the same time that they're having their fish and chips. I would like Gurr's bread and butter pudding because the menu says, like no other you have ever tried, believe us.
Oh, that's a challenge.
It is a challenge. Firstly, it came in quite a big sized bowl. So I was portion size. It was great. It was priced at $12. Again, was great. But I was sat there for a good 5 minutes wondering, well, how am I supposed to eat this? I have no cutlery.
Oh.
He eventually realised and brought me a spoon. The pudding itself was described to me by the server as being filled to the brim with sultanas and dried fruits. I found 3.
That's not exactly filled to the brim, is it now?
No. Out of all the bread puddings, this probably was the most disappointing. It had the biggest hype and it just really let me down. The taste of it was bland. It just tasted of bread, egg and milk. You know, where's the sort of nutmegginess? Where's the actual flavour coming from? Where's that little pop of the sultana in the mouth as a little explosion?
Yeah, because you would have expected Raglan Road to be the closest to what we traditionally expect over here in the UK, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So the menu says it's like no other you have ever tried. Yes, because
Wow.
it's rubbish. It's not as good as any other bread pudding I have tried, and it would be ranked as the very lowest bread pudding.
I suppose that's one of those little caveats they can get away with, isn't it?
Now, all of those desserts I have mentioned are over $10 each.
Yeah.
If you want the steal, the bargain, you are going to go over to Epcot.
Right.
You are going to visit the Germany Pavilion.
Okay.
You are going to go to Summerfest. And literally, it's so difficult to find because if you didn't know it was there, you wouldn't know it was there.
Okay.
And then you're going to order the bread pudding,
Okay.
made with pretzels,
Oh, okay.
full of flavour, really full of flavour, dusting with icing sugar and a caramel sauce and a bit of crème anglaise. Jane, are you ready for the price?
Go on then.
$4.79.
No.
Yeah. No tip because it's a quick serve.
Yeah.
It comes on a plate. And
Yeah.
if you're snacking around the world, you could probably get away with this as being a really, really enjoyable, quick little share me type of meal. Or you could count it as a one person fill my tummy one. That in my mind was the absolute best.
So was it best on like all fronts, on price and on flavour?
It was best on value. It was second on taste. The best tasting one is over at Olivia's.
Right.
But at $16 plus tip
Yeah,
and the weird
yeah.
baconness, it was a little bit over. Now, there is another bread pudding you can get, and it is a banana bread pudding, but it's a Flower and Garden exclusive over at Magnolia Terrace. And boy, oh boy, that was amazing. But because it's seasonal, I'm not going to be able to include it. But if you are there during Flower and Garden, get yourself to Magnolia Terrace in the America Pavilion and get their bread banana pudding. It had sticky, unctuous caramel sauce. It was moist. It was delicious and banana filled. Oh, I'm hungry now, Jane. I want bread and butter pudding.
Yeah, I can't help you, love. Sorry.
Aww. Now, there are a few other bread puddings around Walt Disney World. Notable mentions go to Boma for their cinnamon raisin one.
Ooh.
Boatwrights have a banana Foster bread pudding. I have tried that one and it is particularly tasty. Trattoria El Forno have a tiramisu bread pudding, but I took it off the list because it came with bacon.
It doesn't sound particularly bread pudding either, but
True.
in tiramisu.
Another Disney Springs eatery, the Boathouse, offer caramel apple bread pudding. Sadly, I did not get to test drive that. Maybe it's for the next trip.
That does sound quite nice, actually, caramel apple.
Yeah. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the rundown on where you can get the best bread pudding. And if you want that sugary hit, make a queue in Germany. Say I sent you.
Yeah, that's a good bang for your buck over there.
I love a bargain, Jane.
Oh, absolutely. That's Yorkshire Lasting you're coming out.
Well, it is. And when you sort of think how much it costs to get to Walt Disney World and the accommodation and the tickets and everything like that, to be able to get a little bit of bargaineering like that, you know, if you don't believe me, ask Marla Chan. Message her now. She'll tell you. It is the best. Anyway, we are going to put a little bow on this week's show. If you want more from us, why not hop on over patreon.com Disney Dream Girls, there still has, for your listening delight, the full Tony Baxter interview where he spoke all about the creation of Figment, his journey from start to finish. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at DisDreamGirls. We are part of the Disney Dream Girls podcast family, where you can share your dreams of your holidays, your questions, your tips, and just your general Disney-driven life. But until next week, it's a goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.